Hello and welcome to Movies and Tea. I'm your host as always, Elwood Jones, and joining me, of course, is my biomechanically enhanced co-host, Miss Kim Lowe.
Hello.
Tonight we look at 1999's Virus, the movie that Jamie Lee Curtis deems the worst movie that she's ever made, and a movie I'm actually kind of fond of. But what did Kim make of it? We find out tonight as we check it out. So, Virus, if you are not aware of what it is, it's based on a Dark Horse miniseries. Dark Horse being the independent comic line that given us the likes of Sin City and Tank Girl and Hellboy. They've also produced comic book lines for the likes of Buffy and Alien vs. Predator, and really provided an alternate sort of comic book source for the people who were wanting something other than Marvel and DC and superhero antics, with Dark Horse being one of those lines that provided that. Now, when the series was originally produced, its writer had wanted to put it out as a script, but at the same time had felt that special effects weren't possible for it to be made. So he sold it to Dark Horse and it became a mini-series of 5 issues. And then in 1999 it was picked up for a film production, which we're obviously going to be discussing tonight. The film itself, if you're not familiar with it, sees a tugboat crew stumbling across a seemingly abandoned Russian research vessel which has been taken over by an alien entity which has got into the computer system and has now started manufacturing weapons using the equipment on board, and has also turned to capturing humans for spare parts, turning them into biomechanical weapons. So Kim, what did you think of Virus? I mean, this was released a year after Deep Rising, and as many people point out, they're kind of the same, with people who start off on a small boat and going onto a big boat and finding something rather nasty on board.
Well, I mean, what other boat formula do you have? Like, over on Game War, we had reviewed the Dark Pictures anthology, Man of Medan. That was the same thing. Some people who got on a small boat and they went on a big boat. You know, it's hard to say that. You know, it's the same, it's like a very similar concept because of that one angle. But there's definitely this tone that definitely goes with Virus, which feels like it's trying to be similar to Deep Rising. I don't think it ever gets there. Okay. The main core group is there, and I remembered, I think Deep Rising also had Cliff Curtis. So,
it does.
Yeah. So I was like, I guess that's a similarity too. And it does follow kind of the same type of setting. But I don't really think Virus actually hits that greatness of Deep Rising. Maybe it's because of the cast. It falls into, what would I call it? It's more like really heavy overacting.
Okay.
I find it a lot of over the top moments. And whereas like Deep Rising feels almost like these characters are a bit cartoonish, like it's meant to be very comedic. Whereas this one, right off the bat, it is not meant to be comedic, but there are a lot of very funny moments. But the cast is taking it very seriously. So to me, it's just the tone that really differs from like how much I like Deep Rising compared to, say, Virus, which I didn't rank as high for sure. There are, I like the cast itself. Like, I think when you talk about the essence of the cast itself, this one has some really great, people. And we're talking about people who have made, who are fairly familiar. Especially if you compare to Deep Rising, which isn't exactly like at that point in time, I don't think any of the cast in that movie was very popular.
Deep Rising was basically a cast of character actors, really, wasn't it? So they were all like people who had played a character in something else, whereas this one's got much more of a name cast. I mean, obviously we've got Jamie Lee Curtis, we got Donald Sutherland, we got
exactly.
William Baldwin, not the good one, but the other one. We got Cliff Curtis, who is probably best known for playing... It depends on where you're coming from. He either plays like the shell-shocked commander in Starship Troopers, or he plays the gay PE teacher in Nightmare on Elm Street 2. So it depends on where you're coming from. We also have Sherman Augustus, who was most recently, I want to say, in Stranger Things season 3 or 4.
3, I would think. 4, I don't think is out yet.
Okay, but he plays an army general in that, and yeah, I mean it's a really good group of people that they put together for this film. I thought all of them sort of play a sort of role within it. I mean, obviously Jamie Lee Curtis. She's done at this point. She's done over 80 movies, but much like Anthony Wong, I don't think I've ever seen her put in a bad performance. I mean, she's been in some bad movies, but I don't think I've ever seen a Jamie Lee Curtis performance where she's kind of phoned it in, and I don't think this was certainly the case here. So it surprised me to learn that she hated it so much. And here she's not just doing like the Laurie Strode thing again. Here I think she's much more in tune with like something like Sigourney Weaver's Ripley from Aliens, in that she's the logical female who has to deal with a jackass of a captain. And if we had all listened to her, then perhaps things would have gone a lot smoother.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, is that like Jamie Lee Curtis is one of the better characters here. Especially because you're kind of like, she's like the only female around, other than, you know, the other girl on the boat that shows up.
Yeah, Nadia, who's she's one of the surviving member of the Russian team, and her main purpose is basically, other than to be second kick-ass female, is to basically bring everyone up to speed. Because normally when you have these movies where you have a team stumble into some location and then find themselves being feasted upon or attacked by whatever bumped off the original residents, there's normally a lot of like looking through logs or video logs, or it's this slow reveal, where with Nod it's sort of like, yeah, this thing happened. and all these things happen, so we're brought really unspooked really quick. And I mean, this is one of those rare occasions where you see what happened to the crew like right off the bat. I mean, this is opening credits that we find out here, and I think it's Ghost Ship is the only other one I could think of where it sort of like gave it away what had happened to the crew straight away. Or the other sort of examples I could think of, like Death Ship or like The Thing. They really sort of played it out. Whereas this one just sort of like, it's like right off the bat, it's like, yep, this is what happens, and then it's just like how bad the situation is what's slowly revealed instead. So
yeah, I think the biggest challenge was, you know, believing what she says, right? Because no one at the beginning believed what they said, and I don't know. I mean, you kind of think about this like, this is kind of like, I guess, if you want to put it that way, it's kind of like Deep Rising crossover with Maximum Overdrive, just minus the minus the more goofy tones of it, you know? But, you know, I think that the cast is really good. It just feels that it's just, I don't think anybody really phones it in. Everybody does what they do with this script pretty well, but you got a lot of crazy going on. Like, a lot of the people are very, very weird. And their characters are also really, really peculiar. Like, I don't know, Donald Sutherland is very weird in the sense that I don't know what he was trying to do with the character, because, you know, sometimes he feels like he's really nuts, but at the same time, it never occurred to me that he was really drunk. It just felt like he was just greedy, you know, like he just really wanted to make sure that, you know, he survived this, you know, without going bankrupt.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely wears his like self-preserving like villainy on his sleeve right off the bat. When we're introduced to the team, they're towing a barge, which he's basically invested all his life possessions into dragging this barge out, and they're in the middle of a typhoon, and he's willing to sacrifice his crew and his ship just to get this barge out of there. And it sort of like continues really when he comes across this Russian ship, and they work it out that basically that it's worth like, oh, this is worth a huge amount that would essentially leave them. It would leave them all with like 30 mil. Is it 30 mil in total that the ships were worth, or is it was going to be like, yes, because it's 3 mil each they were going to get, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So, ironically, that's what it cost to make the film, but seeing as the film cost 75 mil to make, and it took only 30 mil, so that was a bit of a loss, especially when you make expensive special effects movies. That's not what you want to really happen. But yeah, it was his villainy is like really on the sleeve right from the back. So if he's like the fact that he gets knocked in his ass by Jamie Lee, he's more than willing. He's sort of like, screw humanity, I'm going to go and side with the evil robot people, because that's going to really help further my goals here. It was a little surprise to anyone when he turns up later in the movie as like a half man, half cyborg. Because did you really think the evil alien creatures was going to be the ones that they were going to be like the people to support your own villainy?
Exactly.
Although I have a real sucker for like whenever you have like computer villains and stuff, and they use that sort of like booming synthesizer voice. Which we get to see here, and it's sort of like, man is virus. And it's like, what do you need from us? And it just starts listing all like the body parts and stuff. It's like, and thankfully someone has the sense to go, oh, they need us for spare parts. There's lots of that sort of dramaticness to it. So it's also weird his accent fades in and out.
Yeah.
It's like his drunkenness. He'll go from being like drunk one minute and then stone cold sober the next, and his accent often does the same.
Yeah, exactly.
But I assumed he was supposed to be Irish.
I suppose so, because I mean that's how it started, and then it kind of like disappeared. So I don't know. Sometimes he sounded like a drunk pirate, and sometimes he didn't, and I was just kind of like, I don't know. That's one of the things that kind of feels a little off as well for the movie. But I don't know. I mean, as much as William Baldwin isn't really known to me, as much as the brothers. I think he did a pretty decent job. He did a pretty decent job. Like, he fit his role fairly well, fairly consistently, I would say.
Yeah, it was kind of unsure what his role in this was supposed to be, because he's not sort of like the action lead, because obviously Jamie Lee handles that. And it's right at the end that they basically reduce her down to damsel in distress status just so they can give him something to do. Which is a little annoying, because up until this point, she's been handling her business. She gets like interrogated at one point. She gets attacked by the big Titan robot thing. She's handling her stuff, and then right at the end, she sort of has to like reduce herself down to this damsel in distress just to give him something to do. That was like one of my few gripes I have with this movie. The other one obviously being that there's scenes where it's just so damn dark you can't see what's going on. Which, on one hand, it's good because it gives us that wonderful, like, the Spielberg lights in the dark sort of thing, and it adds some atmosphere. But other times it's like, come on, just show us a little bit more. I know you're trying to hide the strings here that are moving the puppet, but give me a break here. So when it came to the villain of this thing, I mean, what did you make of it? Because I mean, it's a number of things really. It's not just one thing. I mean, obviously we have the big energy entity that is the alien, but at the same time we have like it diverges off. So we have all these little robots around. We have like it takes over the workshops and like constructs other robots, and we have a big Titan thing. Which they actually did a line of toys to go with the film, because they were really banking it being like this big hit. Because it originally was supposed to be released in the summer, and then it got shunted into January. It got released on January 15th, so the day after my birthday. So I would have this would have been great for me because I could have seen this on my birthday, but it would not so good for a summer blockbuster, because January is sort of considered the dumping ground for movies that they don't have much hope for, and arty fare, not popcorn sci-fi horror. But what did you think of like the robot element of this?
I mean, the robot element is not bad. Like, I mean, for the time, like for the 1999 time, the effects are pretty decent, I would say. Like for the time.
They're also all practical. Well, apart from some CGI for the more complex stuff, but even that I felt still held up really well compared to like stuff that was around the time, and certainly a lot of stuff that's come after it. So
yeah, and the element is pretty good because I do like this whole this virus thing, but at the same time, like, is the virus the alien or is it the man, right? So I really like the angle that they took because obviously they made the point of saying that man is virus, which it's not hard to imagine people looking down on us. But at the same time, it's I like that angle a lot, and I think that when you have this type of element where they're basically using humans for spare parts, well, the moment you know that as a fact, then you start knowing that people are going to come back in various forms of cyborg, and that adds to it because now you have the whole concept of, well, these people are friends or someone they know or whatnot, to this main these main group of core characters, and now that adds in this whole other element of like, obviously, like, a lot of it isn't too emotional, but you have that connection where now you have to consider that part as well when they're fighting them. So I kind of like it like that because it gives you a lot of different elements and different types of robots, like, because they're creating different cyborgs, and you have these like little different robots which are in different groups, and it does give the world, or just at least this alien entity, a bit more depth to it, because basically most of it is pretty unknown. Basically there are aliens which take over. They're like electrical circuits that have come to life. So I don't know how much of an alien form that is, but it does create some interesting parts, because now you know that it's not, it works with one way, but it's not like an on-off button that shuts them off,
No, it's funny as well because when they got on the ship, all the power's been turned off, which obviously shut down these these aliens, and it kind of makes me wonder. It's sort of like, why didn't they just turn the power off again? It never seems to dawn on anyone to just like go back down and pull the fuses out again, because that worked out really well the first time. So, but what do I know?
But I think it had to do maybe because I got a bit confused because like there was a lot of like winding paths and places they went, and then that sort of thing. And then when they went back, places would be welded shut. And I feel like maybe like one of those paths was like maybe they might have wanted to shut it down, but it was welded shut. I don't know. Like I don't know if that just escaped me, or maybe it's something that's that's something that happened.
Yeah. And I mean, also the fact we're on a ship means that we get so much mileage just out of going through tunnels and just going up and down decks. And we, of course, have the obligatory, we've got to go outside of the ship in the middle of a storm shot as well, which has the most unrealistic someone getting washed off a ship I think I've ever seen. But at the same time, there's moments like when the big robot has the bomb and crushes it. It's like checkmate. Oh, chills. It was like if they could give Oscars to robots, then I think that would have been an Oscar-winning nomination right there. But I mean, this film is directed by the legendary special effects supervisor John Bruno, who has worked on Poltergeist 1 and 2, Terminator 2, The Abyss, Batman Begins. I mean, his credits go on and on and on. It's when you look at his body of work, it's incredibly impressive. I mean, he's been nominated for Oscars multiple times over for special effects. So the fact that the practical effects in this movie are so good, I think came as a little surprise. I mean, even the big robot they built, which weighed close to a ton, looks really cool in this. So there's lots of things I like to take away from it, even though when I look at some of the biggest robots and stuff, I can't help but think of The Matrix, which seemed to copy a lot of the same designs of this movie, and that also came out the same year of this movie. So I can't help but wonder if there was some stuff they had left over from the special effects warehouse that they just passed on to the Wachowskis. They were like, "Oh, we need a robot," and they're like, "Yeah, we can whip something up for you." Nobody's gonna watch this Virus movie, so. But yeah, as we said already, Jamie Lee Curtis, she hated the film. She hated John Bruno's directing, especially. She actually campaigned to get Steve Miner, who did Halloween H2O, to come in and direct, but he was busy doing Dawson's Creek at the time.
Okay.
Jeez. Yep, she refers to the film as being a piece of shit and the worst movie ever, and that the only reason to appear in bad movies is that you can show them to your friends at bad movie parties. The fact she was still so angry about this movie that on the Halloween H2O commentary, she's still going on about it. It's like, geez, Jamie, just calm down, have a sandwich.
Well, I mean, the movie itself, you know, like many of the movies of this type, it goes through the same system, right? Like, it doesn't really bank a lot. A lot of people think it's bad, but you know, you still manage to end up coming out with a cult following years later. And you know, I guess that works especially for you. For me, I mean, I'm more of a Deep Rising fan, so
it's fair enough.
I can't really say like this is gonna be something that I'm gonna go back and watch again, but. It you know it has its value. It isn't as bad as you know it's been ranked, I think, or rated in most places, but at the same time I also think it's far from. There's a lot of inconsistencies in its tone and its characters and that sort of thing that feels like it lacks a bit of polish to make it the movie that it needs to be. It doesn't commit enough, you know. So, yeah. I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of things to like about it, but at the same time, for me, I feel like it still misses the mark a little. But that's, you know, that's just me.
It's fair enough. Yeah, I think, as we probably gather from this one, I love the hell out of this movie. Every time I go back and watch it, I, go into it thinking, you know, maybe this is the time I see what everyone hates this movie for. It's like all the other times were just, I was in a particularly good mood when I watched it, but it's like, even now rewatching it for the umpteenth time, I was like, this is just so much fun. There's robots, you got the ship setting. I mean, it's almost as, I want to class these movies as being aquatic horror, maybe because the aquatic horror is so deprived. I mean, there's only essentially about 5 or 6 movies in the aquatic horror genre of The Abyss and Leviathan and Deep Star 6 that you kind of want to cram in all the ones that take place on boats and platforms and anything that's on the ocean or under the ocean somewhere. You kind of want to cram into that aquatic horror sort of category. But yeah, I mean, this certainly makes the most of its setting. I mean, I think again, it's one of those settings that I would love to see used more. Whether it's ghost stories like Ghost Ship or just in video games like Man of Medan, I think it's just a setting that has a lot of potential and it's just never really sort of tapped into as much as I would like to like it to be. But certainly I think Virus is definitely a standout for myself in this horror on boats category.
I don't know. I mean, obviously, I take a rather more average stance on this.
Yeah, I know you obviously have.
But I mean, you know, I was just thinking about it just now, and I was just remembering something that one of the most enjoyable moments I had this movie was probably maybe how Jamie Lee Curtis actually felt about the movie when she said it. And then she was like, F you. And I think it was Donald Sutherland, but I can't remember who it was. And then it was just that perfect remark type of thing. And I was just, that moment was my favorite. And I don't know, I can't remember the context of the whole thing anymore. Oh,
yeah, the robot's interrogation is English. Do you speak English? He's like, fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. and I thought that was so, so genuine in the sense that maybe that's how she was feeling about that movie at that point.
She just had enough at that point.
She just wanted this to end,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, anything else that you want to talk about in this movie?
No.
So that's Virus. It's recently had a Blu-ray re-release, which is great if you like this movie. If you didn't, never mind. But I think if you've not seen Virus, I think it's one worth checking out, especially because it's practical effects, and I think anytime you've got a movie with practical effects done well, it's worth checking out. There is another movie like this called Moonfall, which stars Bruce Campbell, and essentially has robot aliens coming from the moon, and that takes place in a space shuttle rather than a ship. So there is that alternative as well. But yeah, for myself, I would say it's still Mercy. For Kim, I'm guessing, average.
Average, yeah.
Cool. But yeah, that was I almost said Deep Rising then. That was Virus. But thank you for listening. If you haven't done already, please do hit the like and subscribe button wherever you happen to be listening to us. Maybe leave a review, as it all helps raise the profile of the show. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Come say hi to us there. You can also check out our blog, which is moviestpodcast.wordpress.com, where we've got our full archive episodes where we cover Paul W.S. Anderson, Sofia Coppola, Guillermo del Toro, Ang Lee, Quentin Tarantino was our most recent season, as well as a celebration of kick-ass female directors and a season dedicated to the evolution of the creature feature. So there's a whole hope of great stuff in our archive, including our Friday Film Club, where every Friday myself and Kim both pick a film to highlight. Sometimes the theme, sometimes there's not. But either way, it's a chance to talk more about movies that we love. But Kim, it is your turn to choose what we look at next for our next After Hours episode. What have you chosen?
Well, I have rewinded, fast-forwarded exactly 20 years to 2019, and we're going to talk about another Jamie Lee Curtis movie called Knives Out.
Fantastic. So that will obviously be on our next episode, where we continue our celebration of the career of Jamie Lee Curtis with Knives Out. But until then, thank you for listening. Thanks to my co-host Kim, and we will be back next time with Knives Out. But until then, good night.